Now, to discuss this further, in studio we're joined by editor and publisher of Africa Times, Mr. Piet Rampedi. Good morning to you, Mr. Rampedi, and thank you for joining us here on Ground Report. First and foremost, South Africans were mostly shocked by the announcement or reports of the imminent arrest of the Minister of Finance, Gordhan. Your reactions?
Look, thanks for inviting me. I was as shocked as many South Africans, but what I also noticed is that many people, especially in the media, have been conflating what is supposed to be two separate processes. One, if you need to understand where this case started, you need to understand that there are two processes. One was whether or not there was a rogue unit and whether or not it broke the law. The second process is whether or not there is a conspiracy to smear Minister Gordhan. I think many people who have been reacting have been conflating the two processes. As someone who wrote the rogue unit story when I was still working for the Sunday Times in 2014 and 2015, I know that we investigated the rogue unit and its activities, and we uncovered prima facie evidence of illegal activities on the part of members of the SARS rogue unit. And our stories were subsequently vindicated by a couple of independent bodies. So now, to understand this process better, I think we need to separate the two processes. If you say, for example, I've been aware that the Hawks have been investigating this case, and I was also aware that they handed over a docket to the NPA. And that's where we should focus on for now. Should the Hawks proceed with this case? I think they should, in line with the principle of equality before the law, and also with due respect to legal processes in the country. And that's where I think the people who have been reacting have been missing the point, because they've been trying to conflate the two processes. Because there is an alleged conspiracy, therefore there mustn't be any criminal or prosecutorial processes. What I think should be happening is that Minister Gordhan, who is very capable as a minister and has done very well, as his statement is saying, as a minister, should be allowed, and all of us in the media should allow due processes to take place. He should be allowed to go to court and then prove his case there, so that he can expose these people that he say are trying to smear him. And once that process is done, and then he's vindicated, and then we move to the second process, which is the alleged conspiracy. After the first process is done, you then come and say, I've proven my innocence, these people are charlatans, they've been out to destroy me, I'm now suing them. I want the law to take its course because these people have been trying to destroy me. They are charlatans, they are conspiring, or they conspired against me, and I think the second process must take place. So what people have been doing is to conflate the two and say, because the second process is political, allegedly, then the first process must not take place. And we've seen this kind of trend, which is very worrying to me personally, where the same people who for a long time have been saying, rightfully so, that the NPA, the former head of the NPA, Mokotedi, was wrong for allowing the second process, which was an alleged conspiracy, to then trump the first process in the case involving President Jacob Zuma. And as we have seen, the court has gone on to say he was wrong, because you can't say on the basis of an alleged conspiracy, say then charges or prima facie evidence must never be tested in court. And also coming back to his statement, I've noticed in the statement that he's saying he believes he's innocent and he can't believe, and with his track record at SARS and in the underground struggle, that people could be doing these things to him. That's why I think he's also missing the point, and the media is also missing the point. Just imagine if all criminal suspects in this country were to be allowed to say, because they believe they're innocent, they can't be charged and they can't be taken to court. And that would be catastrophic. You can't have that kind of thing. It will undermine the principle of equality before the law. And
let's talk about this prima facie evidence. I mean, you're aware that there is prima facie evidence. Why do you think the Hawks have taken so long to, the rogue units years ago. Why should it be questionable for the NPA to decide whether to prosecute or not? If there is prima facie evidence, why has it taken so long to get to the headlines, to get why they're not laying charges?
Look, I'm not privy to their investigations, and I don't want to claim I am. What I know is that because we did our investigation at the Sunday Times between the end of 2014 and then we started breaking the stories towards the end and the beginning of last year, I know for a fact that SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane laid the charges in May last year. Why they've taken so long to investigate, I don't know, and why the NPA are not moving, I don't know. But I know that we in fact, our investigations answered the core issues, which was one, whether or not there was a rogue unit at SARS and whether or not it broke the law. You know, that evidence we uncovered and we published that evidence. But you know, what the Hawks and the NPA do with that kind of information is not for us as journalists. I was never interested in whether or not they were going to charge or move and how fast.
You publish the story, but you're not interested to see whether they will prosecute or not. Why go through all that work to get that prima facie evidence and not be worried that he should be charged?
Look, as a journalist, it's not my work whether or not law enforcement agencies act on the basis of the information that I would have revealed. My work is to uncover evidence of corruption as an investigative journalist and say to the public, here's the evidence, this is what is happening. It's not for me to then run around and say to the Hawks, you must act. Then I'm actually I'm overstepping my mandate as a journalist. I'm not interested in whether or not they act.
But before we get to the end of this conversation, let's explore and expand on the other side of the coin. And this is the Minister of Finance's allegations that there's a conspiracy against him. What facts are there? Is there any proof of that out there?
Look, conspiracy theories are difficult to prove. And I can't say sitting here that he doesn't have any fact to prove it. He doesn't have any evidence. And I can't rubbish his claim. All I'm saying is that the two processes should be separated. They should not be conflated. If he has got evidence of a conspiracy, he must prove his case in court, the first process. Prove his case in court, get himself exonerated, and then prove his innocence, expose these charlatans whom he say are trying to destroy him. Once he's done with that first case, and then move to the second one and say, look, as I told you, these people were just conspiring. I'm now taking them to the cleaners. I think that's where my concern is, because if we are going to conflate the two and say, as most of my colleagues in the media are doing, since this case started, all they did was to cry injustice. They're not even interested in dealing with the merit or the core allegations, which I think Minister Gordhan should answer in a court of law.
Just lastly, Piet, because we are running out of time, on looking at social media, looking at South Africa's response to this entire story, South Africans are very worried about the rand, about the markets. Your views on how this will impact South Africa's economy? Look,
I mean, Minister Gordhan is the finance minister. Whatever's going to happen around him will always have an impact on the rand. What my concern is that there are people, mostly in the media, who are trying to say because he's the finance minister and whatever happens around him, he shouldn't be allowed to go to court to answer for these charges. What I'm saying with that is that it's going to undermine the principle of equality before the law. Because if I become finance minister tomorrow and there are allegations against me, I'll say to everyone that, look, you can't touch me, I'm the finance minister. And what that will do is that it will set a wrong precedent. You will have criminals out there saying to the Hawks, I can't answer your questions. I'll tell you when I'm free because I'm still busy, or because I believe I'm innocent. And we have seen a lot of things happening. He's not the first person to be subjected, high-profile person, to be subjected to these kinds of things. I mean, we've seen cases around people like Nomco Ujiba at the NPA and Mdluli. No one said they shouldn't be allowed to go to court to prove their innocence because they hold high-profile cases. Yeah. Why should we have different rules for Minister Gordhan? That's where my problem is with the media. I believe the media is being hypocritical in their reportage of this issue because they also seem to have different set of rules. You have had cases involving people like Breitenbach from the DA. You have had people cases involving a former IPAD head, Robert McBride, and many other people. And when those cases are supposed to be taken to court for them to clear their names there, you have the media crying injustice and saying, you can't take these people to court because the cases are political. But people like Nomkobo Jipa and Mzuli were taken to court to prove their innocence. I'm saying to the media, you can't be hypocritical. You can't have different rules for different people.
But that's where we're going to have to do it. Very interesting. We appreciate you coming in and joining us today. I know you've done a lot of research on this. It's the publisher and editor of African Times, Piet Rampedi, chatting to us about the finance minister and the allegations against him. Two processes, he's saying there, that are running conjunct, together, important for the country, with the rand also in free fall at the moment. 15.70 the rand to the dollar at the moment this morning. So real concerns over a number of issues concerning the finance minister. We'll continue to track the story for you in The Builder.